Welcome and thank you for visiting Hollywood Homes. This is our contract to lease video training module. If you have any questions about this, my name is Ben Garcia. I am the broker of Hollywood Homes. You can contact us at 954 924 5454. We're going to run through a standard contract to lease, which is the offer you're going to make between the tenant and the prospective landlord on a property. The first line you're going to see here is prospective tenant. So we're going to put in that person's name. Okay, normally we are representing the tenant when we are making a contract to lease. If you're representing the landlord, you will be getting one of these. So either way, you need to understand what is here. The second line, you do not have to fill it out. If you're making a contract to lease on behalf of your tenant, you can leave this blank or you can put owner of record. Do not take too much time trying to find out the information on the prospective landlord. It could be wrong. It could have changed hands. Tax rolls might not be updated, etc. Okay? Proposed rental property 123 Main Street is the address of the property. That's going to be located in Hollywood, Florida. Okay, pretty simple, basic information. Broker, line one. Are we the cooperating or listing broker? We are the cooperating broker in this instance. We are writing an offer for this transaction for Jane Smith, who is the tenant. That makes us the cooperating broker. If we were receiving it, we'd be the listing broker. We are not the listing broker in this instance. We're the cooperating broker. Deposit receipt, very important. This is not the security deposit. It's not first, last, and security. This is deposit receipt, basically put in as a good faith. Okay, who's it going to go to? Hollywood Homes or any other third party, title company, etc. Hollywood Homes LLC, we're going to say that we received $500 on this particular property as good faith. We're going to assume that this is a $1,000 transaction and we received one half of a month as a deposit receipt. Generally, that's what we're looking to get. Whatever our commission is, whether it's 500, whether it's half a month or 5%, that's what we want to collect. In the event that there is a speedy, closing that needs to be done right away or what have you, the tenant can simply make the money order to the prospective assisting office and landlord, and without us having to, do checks quickly or out of the blue when we're not prepared to. Normally, what we want to do is before closing, by 1 p.m. the previous day, you have our disbursements in, which is another little training video, so that we can make these checks for you. So what we do is we just take a half a month in general, just in case, so it's an easy, we always take our commission, we have it in the bank, we can write you a check as the agent quickly. Description of property. We're going to do a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, unfurnished, parking spaces, 2. We're going to say commercial vehicles are prohibited. We are assuming that this is a condo in our training here. We're going to say that pets are prohibited, so we would put none here. If pets were permitted, you would write what the restrictions are according to the MLS. Okay, y minus 20, for instance. Okay, there are instances where pets are permitted, but we don't have a pet. Okay, so you might want to write yes, pets are permitted, but none. Okay, property use restrictions, residential. Property is to be used by 1 occupant, Jane Smith, or 2 occupants, Jane Smith and Ben Smith. Okay, and you can write Ben Smith can be the 6-year-old. The reason I do this is because anyone over 18 will have to go on the application, and if you put Jane Smith and Ben Smith, they're going to come back to you. They're going to call you. Who's Ben Smith? I just make sure I put either 6-year-old, or you would put something like child son, okay, something that they understand. You can say minus 18, under 18, under 18. Just use your common sense when doing this, okay? So that they understand that that second person is not someone that needs to go on the lease as an applicant. Okay, proposed term of the lease, we're going to start it on June 1st because it is the end of April. We're going to assume that they're ready to go for June 1. Okay, it always ends the day before on the next year. It does not end June 1st of the next year. It ends on May 31st of 2013. Okay, you see how that goes? June 1st would end May 31st of the next year. Total rent is going to be the total rent for the year. Some agents like to put the month. You can do month or year. I prefer per year, so it's clear. We're going to put a security deposit. Again, this is not the receipt deposit. This is not a deposit receipt. We did have an instance where an agent wrote right here $500. They put $1,000 and $1,000. Their tenant was offering first and last month, and they put security deposit $500. What he was trying to say was that he had collected $500. Well, the landlord signed it. The tenants were ready to move in. They were short money. The landlord was short money, and when we went back to the contract, we saw the error. We had to eat it. We do not want to eat it. The agent ended up losing his commission over this because it was an error. Very, very important. This is not the deposit receipt. If there's going to be no security deposit, first, last, and security, leave it blank. If there is, put it in, whatever it's going to be. Okay? Advanced rent, you might get a fourth month. Application fee. The association may have an application fee. This is not our application fee. Hollywood Home charges the tenant to do background, credit, call the previous landlords, call the job, do background checks, etc. $100 application fee. This is not to go here. Again, this is not Hollywood Homes application fee. This is in the event there is a condo association or a third party fee, it goes here. Again, check your MLS. Pet fees, is the pet fee refundable or is it non-refundable? Which one is it? Put it here. Other, fourth rent, fifth rent, sixth rent, whatever it is, put here. Okay? Security deposits, advance rent, and refundable fees will be held by, a lot of agents put broker. That is not, again, the deposit receipt. It is security deposit. We do not hold security deposit. Landlords hold the deposit in a non-interest bearing account. Okay? Expenses to be paid, utilities. Normally, the landlord does not pay the electric, the tenant pays the electric. Same for gas and fuel. Sometimes it's not applicable. In Hollywood, there are a lot of places that still have gas. Sewer, water, a lot of times in condos, which is what we're assuming now, the landlord will pay sewer and water. In Hollywood, sewer and water and trash collection are all on the same bill. So they all go together. Tenant will pay their own telephone. Maintenance, landlord, AC, building exterior, lawn and shrubbery. Even if they're not mowing the lawn, they are paying in their maintenance fees for the premises to be taken care of. Pool, do they have a pool? Yes, no. If it's not applicable, put it there. Pest control, almost always is the tenant's responsibility. You may put in the special clauses that you would like the landlord to do the initial pest control. That's okay, but the monthly pest control is normally the tenant's responsibility. Find out. This confuses people a lot. Water, because they see hot water. Oh, that must be the tenant. No. This is the hot water heater and the plumbing. That's the responsibility of the landlord to keep that working condition. Windows, doors, and screens. Landlord. Electrical system. Landlord. Garbage removal. Again, a little confusing sometimes. Is it the landlord that needs it? They're not coming into your house and taking out your trash every evening. This is for the removal from the premises. Garbage removal, landlord's responsibility. Okay? From the premises. That means the dumpster, They pay for it on their maintenance fees, etc. Structural and foundation is the landlord. Smoke detectors, always tenant. They may have smoke detectors installed. It's not the landlord's responsibility to make sure that the battery is changed. You change the battery. If you see there's a problem, make sure you replace it, change the battery, keep it up. Locks and keys could be landlord, could be tenant. The initial locks and keys are always the landlord. They've probably changed the locks from the previous tenant and are going to supply you one set of keys. But in this instance, locks, you get locked out of your house, your apartment, you do not call the landlord to have him run you another set of keys or pay for a locksmith. That is the tenant's responsibility. Okay? Any additional locks and keys will be the tenant's responsibility. Have the tenant initial here. This is not for first initial, second initial. This is for each individual person to write both initials. Second person writes both initials under prospective tenant. I see it all the time. Somebody puts their first initial, puts their last initial. That's not correct. If there's two people, one initials is here, one initials there. Jane Smith, the only person, will only initial there. Taxes. Taxes are always on the landlord, almost always. I haven't run into many cases that are not. Sometimes taxes are paid in the rental payment. Very, 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 very few ever do that. Insurance. Landlord, landlord, landlord. And I always write a little note here just to make sure that the tenants understand that contents insurance, their contents is not insured by the landlord. If they want to buy contents insurance or renter's insurance, they're surely welcome to. Preparation of the lease. We want the preparation of the lease to be no later than 3 days from the time they sign this agreement. So we wrote this on the 26th. We're expecting the 27th by 5 p.m. for that to be accepted. By Monday at 5 p.m., we expect to have a lease in writing. Time is of the essence in these contracts. We can't wait 10 days hoping that we get something signed. You need to have it done. Everything needs to be done quickly. Association approval. Okay, let's say there's a $100 app fee from the association. Make sure that matches this line right here. Okay, don't have that be different. Anything over $100 is not legal to charge per applicant. You can charge $100 according to statute 617, Florida statutes. $100 per applicant, $100 per married couple, or $100 each if they're individual applicants, roommates, etc. If you see any number other than $100 or less, you need to contact myself, the broker. I will handle it or tell you what needs to be done. You cannot see a $150 application here and just have your tenant pay it. It is illegal. Okay, they can pay $100 to the association and a $50 fee in addition to a screening company. That is correct, but they cannot pay $150 to an application. Happens all the time. We constantly have to stop that. Associations just make up their own rules. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to put that the tenant needs to make application to the association within 3 days of the contract being signed. Okay, so the lease is signed 4:30. By 5:03 we need to have a completed application to the condo association and have it turned in. Normally association approval is required. Again, that's a whole other issue. Unless it's explicitly written into their bylaws, they cannot deny anyone. They can only recommend their opinion to the landlord. 90% of the agents don't know that. We do know that. We study our laws and statutes here, and we'll discuss that in a different module. Occupancy is not permitted prior to association. Please don't allow your tenants to go in prior to association approval. Okay, failure to perform. Both the tenant and the landlord have responsibilities to perform according to the lease. The tenant cannot just change their mind at the 11th hour after they've signed a lease, and neither can the landlord. The tenant can't decide they're going to move in with their mother and they want all their money back, and the landlord cannot decide they're going to rent it to their niece and not have repercussions. That's what this section is for, failure to perform. Retain deposits. We have $500 as a current deposit. This is not this does not mean security deposits. Another confusing point. A lot of agents think that this is retained security deposit at the end of the lease. This is not. This is deposits as good faith prior to moving in. In the event that the landlord retains a deposit, prospective landlord will pay the broker 50% of that deposit, not to exceed any previously agreed upon compensation. In other words, if they left $3,000 with us and our commission is $500, 50% of the deposit would be $1,500. We cannot collect $1,500. We can only collect $500. Okay? Use restrictions, usually residential, that you agree to, don't start a beauty salon in a condo. According to zoning and ordinances, it's usually residential. Okay? Assignability, do not assign this contract to anyone. You are not to sublease this property to someone else if you can't make the payments. You need to speak to the landlord and make arrangements. You cannot assign this contract without prior written consent. There are some landlords that will accept, a best friend or something along those lines to let the tenant get out of the lease and put a new one in. Okay, and have the deposits carry on, etc. Okay, there are no other agreements that supersede this. There are no modifications or changes that can be made to the contract unless signed by both parties. If you have a date change, don't just scratch it out and change it. If you scratch it out and change the date, you make a circle with a cross. A circle with a cross. It gives you 4 places to initial. You make a circle, put a cross inside of it, and you have 4 places for people to initial. 2 landlords and 2 tenants. You put that next to any change, and until everyone signs off, it is not fully executed. Radon gas is a naturally occurring gas. It's just a disclosure. You let them know it's a naturally occurring gas. In Florida, it has been known to build up in high-rise buildings and cause illness. So you just want to let them know, and they can get radon testing if they need to, and pamphlets on it via the city. Brokerage disclosure: we are representing the tenant on this transaction, not the landlord. We are representing the tenant. Even though we're transaction brokers, we're still writing this up and representing the tenant on this particular transaction. Facsimiles. A fax is a real copy. It used to be you had to tote around the original, go from the owner to the tenant, or have everybody in the same room. There's no longer the case. Tenant can sign this. You can fax it to the landlord's agent. They can sign it, fax it back, fully executed legal contract in the state of Florida. A facsimile contract and any signatures thereon will be considered for all purposes as originals. Again, you have the tenant sign, initial. One tenant, second tenant. In this instance, Jane Smith will put her both initials here. Special clauses. Okay, this is where you would write landlord will do initial. Okay, initial pest control treatment. Okay, just quickly go through your thoughts, and you can go back and change whatever you like. Tenant will pay security over 3 months. We're going to put 4 months. Over 4 months at $250 a month, beginning on June 1, 2012. What we're doing here is we're just letting putting in some special clauses, some things we've gone over, okay, that we've discussed that the tenant may want. They might not have the entire security deposit, but the landlord's really insisting on it. So you're going to you're just going to be basically writing up an offer with what your tenant would prefer. You might go back and forth a couple times on this. This might be all scratched off, and the circles with the crosses would be put on it. Okay, but here's where you're making your special clauses, and it's nice to use the digital version because you can simply just write your thoughts down, go back and change it. If you're printing them out and writing everything manual, just write everything on a scratch sheet of paper. Make sure everyone's clear, your tenants are clear, and then put it onto the special clauses area. Okay, prospective tenant is going to sign here, put their social security number here, home telephone number, work number, do they have access to a fax, what is their current address, what's their current email. Same for the landlord, is going to sign here. And do not forget that the contract does not stop here, it stops here. Still need to initial these pages. Okay, this last page, very important. This is constantly missed because as soon as they get the signatures, they think that's the end. Please make sure you get the tenant's initials here. Okay, review, scroll up, review, make sure you've got all your boxes checked, all your information, everything you need taken care of. Okay, your dates are correct. A lot of times we put 2012 here by mistake. Make sure that's the next year, day before the next year. Okay, then you can simply save it to your hard drive. I prefer Transaction Desk Pro. I pay for that service outside of the MLS. The MLS has a form simplicity. You can certainly use that online, filling out documents like this, printed. Always looks nice and neat unless you have perfect handwriting. I happen to write like a doctor, so nobody can read my handwriting, so I have to do all my contracts like this. Okay, and it always gives a great first impression. So if you have any questions on this contract to lease, you can call Ben Garcia at Hollywood Homes at 954-924-5454.